hungry, starving maybe? Anyone who's outside, I'm told I should remind you to come in because you can apparently hear my voice. My name is Stephanie Dainow. I'm the new executive director at Lifespan.io, and today I'm here to talk to you about making the longevity and rejuvenation movement more mainstream. So thank you all for being here today and for the organizers for having me, and I'm really excited to have this conversation. It's a little bit different from what you've been experiencing, so let's get started. So we are a nonprofit advocacy organization, and we've been around for actually almost a decade now. And many of you have likely heard of us, but I imagine some clarity would be helpful. So today I'd like to formally reintroduce the organization to you and give some context to what's behind the phrase on the homepage, leading the movement for longer, healthier lives. And today's talk is tailored to scientists, investors, researchers, entrepreneurs, investors, and the like. So while I am speaking on behalf of Lifespan.io today, I personally have been a business and strategy mentor to deep tech entrepreneurs, and I've also co-founded a drug discovery and development startup. So I'm familiar with many of the challenges being faced in the room. The difference, though, is that I'm actually not a scientist or a technologist, but it'll start coming into play soon. So today, we are going to discuss the importance of making the longevity movement mainstream and how to get more attention and also money into the field. So I'll start off by saying that the work being done at our organization amplifies all the work that you're doing here. Our goal is to build and serve the community for the purpose of accelerating progress. So what we do is we promote the advancement of biomedical technologies through sponsorship, democratization, funding enablement, responsible journalism, media capabilities, awareness, and encouraged collaboration. And don't worry, we'll dig into that. Historically, our organization was known for crowdfunding, and our website was actually originally developed to be a platform for this activity. Just want to make sure I see a timer. Okay. So here's a little bit of what we do. After the crowdfunding platform, we then expanded into longevity news and education. And it's important to note that we have a very stringent code of ethics that our writers follow. So what we publish is objective, fact-based, and not financially driven or influenced by bias. So if you'd like to learn more about that, there is a website there, or you can just type that in on our site. Over the last few years, however, we've been developing and also leveraging various media platforms and crowdfunding infrastructure where we share all of our content and engage the public. We have a podcast with monthly recaps of all the latest news, animated videos that teach people the basics of science and critical thinking about health span and lifespan, and much more. We target audiences at every level of knowledge and ensure information is evergreen and relevant. So everything previously listed on the last slide has a strong tie to media, which plays a critical role in changing mindsets, driving awareness, and making something, anything, mainstream. I used to work for one of the largest media holding companies on the planet. Fun fact, Coca-Cola paid $1 billion a year just on advertising. How much money is being spent on selling or advocating the idea of longevity research as something to pay more attention to put more money into? Well, we all know it's not enough, at least not yet. So how do we change the current state? A seed that I would like to plant in your minds today is the importance of effective storytelling. Understanding your audiences, whether they are customers, investors, pharma partners, even your family, is required in order to effectively pitch a business idea, your belief model, anything for that matter. So thoughtful and simplified narratives are absolutely key and one of the biggest hurdles longevity science entrepreneurs experience right now. The current path to mainstream success are either to achieve massive scientific breakthrough, which would theoretically allow the value of the movement to speak for itself, or to continue to drive more attention and funding into the field so more research can be done and faster. This requires successfully challenging widespread biases currently held by the general public, politicians, regulatory bodies, even investors who aren't yet aligned or educated about our field. Lifespan.io is helping to pave the way for emerging biomedical technology to be accepted and adopted by mainstream audiences. We are articulating the value of this industry, also for the sake of your future clients, your future patients, product end users, investors. We're thinking about your target audiences in the future today and intelligently confronting current misconceptions. We're working to reduce skepticism and to educate with digestible information. Such advocacy efforts help develop the mindset required to frame the infrastructure of our future marketplace. FYI, all of our resources that I have listed and will continue to list are completely at the disposal of this community. So let me walk you through the how. How do we do this? We drive the following virtuous cycle. We spotlight, we recognize the interesting and important research being done. Our teams of science writers and video content producers simplify complex science and present the translated content in a way that educates the public and excites them about all of the work being done in the space. We then amplify this news to the various target audiences with our media platforms and capabilities. And this amplification enables funding opportunities which are then used to drive further research and create a readiness for either institutional investment and/or decentralized support with emerging tech like Web3 and blockchain. And I don't have time to necessarily walk through the specifics of all of that right now, and it is quite complicated, but there are plenty of resources on our site that explain everything you could possibly want to know, so feel free to check that out. Furthermore, we are community builders and facilitate collaboration opportunities across the board. Anyways, this continuous cycle here, it ensures that research initiatives do not funnel to a point of obscurity that no one knows about. However, there are still challenges that need to be addressed. Okay, so before I continue, I will start with a positive. This industry and this community is uniquely altruistic, at least for now, but as things do become more mainstream, this will change. The goal is to raise all boats, and a single success will benefit everybody. Regarding the challenges we're focused on, okay, so there's making the field more accessible for funding and creating new funding mechanisms, and also generating more public awareness and support, but let's start with money. Okay, so regarding government funding, let's look at the US for a moment. According to estimates, aging causes 85% of deaths, but only receives 8.5% of all government health research funding. The NIH budget is less than 0.1% of US healthcare spending. So we've established that the aging research field is hugely underfunded. There are a few ways to compensate for this deficit, and several strategic approaches that can combat financial accessibility hurdles at this time. Private investment is one, but it also has serious challenges, which I will get into in a second. And then there's citizen contribution. So with private investment, attracting private investment in the longevity biotech space has been a historical challenge. Let me tell you why. This is due to misaligned investment ROI ethos, because by nature, investors are seeking quick time horizons. All research has long time horizons, but none such greater than longevity, where you might actually have to wait 50 years to see proper results and/or revenue. For investors that are curious or already aligned with the longevity mission, Lifespan.io has its long-standing longevity investor network, where we connect early-stage startups with angel investors and small funds. Immunis and Nanotics are here today, and you've heard from Lou, and I believe there's someone else as well, but I'm not sure if they're here, so I don't want to call them out by accident. But they've been a part of this network for quite some time. We're going to be expanding this community network, and to learn more about participation, don't hesitate to reach out to our team. If your research already has funding, pay close attention to the next speaker. We're thrilled that there are other organizations here today working to advance companies into even later stages of longevity investment, and it's a very difficult problem, but there are a lot of organizations working on this for you. Okay, so citizen contribution. Crowdfunding is the practice of funding a project or a venture via crowdsourced financial contributions. It's been used to advance scientific progress for hundreds of years, and thanks to the internet and the mainstream adoption of more recent technologies, it's becoming quite popular. Crowdfunding with strategic media support provides a consistent call to action that's both visible and engaging, and effectively helps a movement get off the ground. So what does it do? It democratizes the research, it raises funds for it, it creates awareness, and it engages the broader public. It also provides great visibility and has the potential to go viral. Lifespan.io has a long history of enabling organizations and citizen contributions through crowdfunding and fiscal sponsorships as well. Before I give you some examples, I wanted to mention modern research grants, but more specifically, impetus grants. So they are also funded through citizen contributions. And according to their organization, researchers spend an enormous amount of time writing and waiting for grants. A major NIH grant takes at least half a year to prepare, and funding typically arrives a year after the application is submitted. This pace is much too slow and wastes time. Impetus grants has a process that is 15 times faster than traditional NIH grants, and researchers can prepare an application in less than a day and receive funding in 4 weeks. So now to focus on Lifespan.io crowdfunding, here's one example. Oliver Medvedik and Keith Comito are two of the founders of Lifespan.io, and they were excited about studies in both mice and humans and the potential for gamma ray therapy to slow or prevent progression of Alzheimer's. This project here aims to crowdsource the development of a non-pharmacological device and software, bypassing slow and costly clinical trials associated with drug-based models in order to get meaningful results in the hands of the public as fast as possible. They used Gitcoin Grants platform here, where research projects can attract something new called quadratic funding, which is a bit complicated to understand at first, but the value is enormous. Basically, it's a democratized and scalable way to match citizen contributor funding activities. This is the Pearl campaign, and it is the participatory evaluation of aging with rapamycin for human longevity, PEARL. We did this with Ageless RX, and it brought in more than $180,000 and lots of awareness. Not bad. This one is the NMN mice research study with David Sinclair that we did, also with Harvard Medical School. This campaign surpassed its fundraising goal on our crowdfunding platform as well by an additional 150%. So while crowdfunding brings in money, it engages the public, and it also creates valuable awareness, which helps with the private investor ROI challenge that I mentioned earlier. This is because a successful campaign like this demonstrates public interest and market potential, which effectively de-risks investment. So hopefully you're starting to see the bigger picture here. And then we get into fiscal sponsorship, which is also one of the things we do. So this is Alliance for Longevity Initiatives, A4LI. Our best shot at combating the government funding challenge that I discussed earlier is through lobbying and political advocacy. We are fiscally sponsoring the online educational resource component of this organization, which is a US nonprofit that's legally allowed to lobby politicians. This is the first and only 501c4 focused on creating social and political action around longevity. These are some of their initiatives: helping the FDA understand and support geoscience and longevity medicine advancements, advocating ARPA-H, increasing funding for the NIA, establishing a longevity caucus in Congress, which is happening now, doing polls that actually demonstrate bipartisan support for the therapies, and how the general public thinks about aging. We're also fiscally sponsoring the rapamycin human trial with Dr. Brad Stanfield. If you want to see this trial happen, you can donate right now, and I left the QR code up there, but this fundraiser is live today. And he's doing it himself through YouTube, and we are the fiscal sponsor. It's a little bit different from the other crowdfunding initiatives and campaigns that I discussed. Another one that we're fiscally sponsoring is a mission-aligned initiative with movies and documentaries. Art can help change the way society views longevity research. We are committed to much more of this in the near future, so stay tuned for some fun and exciting news in the coming months. Has anyone heard of this? Did you like it? Yes. There we go. And I think there's someone else here that's also associated with a DAO called Jellyfish, which we'll talk about in the future too. So we talked about funding enablement. Now let's talk about generating more public awareness and support. So it's important to go back to this virtuous cycle real quick. Leveraging our crowdfunding platform is one major way we help researchers and entrepreneurs articulate their value prop in a clear and relatable way. But crowdfunding is not easy, okay? Successful crowdfunding requires a lot of work and is certainly not effective without the power to amplify the campaign. Nothing I've discussed today works without proper access to large audiences. So let's discuss the process and value of amplification and some of the associated challenges and opportunities. Okay, so it's also important to understand the upfront challenges we all face with the general public. The longevity community as a whole is currently experiencing serious symptoms of a paradigm shift. And also, I don't know if you guys feel it because you're part of the community, but if you step outside, it is a different world, and I encourage you to ask random people on the street what they think from time to time. At the end of the day, the rate of progress and the ability to get mainstream attention and recognition is heavily influenced by strong biases and misconceptions. To overcome this and all the other challenges I've discussed thus far, closing the gap and strategic activation is critical. So this one's pretty important. Perceptions of longevity biotech are vast. The complicated status quo is a result of widespread subjective constructions of reality. It sounds harsh, but when you really think about it, it starts to look different. We have an idea in our minds of how things are, and it affects how we, and especially people outside the field, see things. So I met a woman whose entire family thinks her interest in longevity is irrational. They claim her belief in the potential of longevity research is the equivalent to saying Santa Claus is real. 9 times out of 10, people that I meet assume longevity means anti-aging, which some would argue is representative of cosmetic surgery and Botox and the aesthetics industry. Others would immediately react with an unsupported argument that we shouldn't want to live forever. So, how many of the associations listed do you personally agree with? How many do you disagree with? For the sake of provoking new thinking, what if we were having this conversation 20 years ago? How would you feel? What if it was 20 years from now? Do you think your position changes? Are you prepared to effectively argue your beliefs and persuade someone else to reconsider theirs? We all know how frustrating it can be to constantly encounter biases and misconceptions, and trying to overcome them is very hard. At Lifespan.io, we spent a lot of time thinking about these perceptions and have crafted concise and articulate, relatable responses to common objections. These counter-argument resources are available on our website, and there's a QR code there. Okay, so now how do we close the bias gap? Our nonprofit mission is to build and leverage this bridge. Strategic content creation and thoughtful narratives that are tailored to different audiences with different biases is one of our focus areas. Media and audience reach is one of the most important mechanisms to successfully making something mainstream. In addition to our newsletter subscribers, hundreds of thousands of curious people who visit our website to learn, we also have teams that drive these 4 YouTube channels, as shown in the funnel. Each channel has a different audience demographic. Life Noggin is at the top. It's an educational entertainment channel that lives at the top of the funnel and attracts over 3 million subscribers who represent the general lay public. As we narrow down the pipe, the subsequent channels have audiences that become more scientific and more mission-aligned, and different types of content are produced to match. What we've created here is a complete educational funnel that both informs and encourages the public, effectively inspiring the birth of new longevity advocates, investors, and researchers. Audiences are strategically funneled through, closing the gap between scientists, funders, politicians, and the public. So regarding social media platforms, it's also important to reiterate that crowdfunding is not easy or effective without strategically positioned megaphone. So this is the true purpose of our social media capabilities and expansive reach. Strategic collaboration is another tactic that we really love. We partner with other powerful channels like Korskastat, right here. They have 20 million subscribers who have viewed all of their content over 2 billion times. The public watched our Ending Aging video collaboration here more than 8 million times. More than 250,000 liked it. 30,000 gave good public feedback. Remember that a majority of these people are not familiar with longevity biotech research. This video partnership is a perfect example of how the public narrative can be changed and how this type of advocacy and public engagement makes the ground fertile for all longevity initiatives. Here's something fun. Various longevity investor network investors from lifespan.io expressed that this particular video influenced them to lead a seed fundraising round with a startup in our network. Let's let that sink in for a minute. That's amazing. A random person. And basically, it enables more research to be done. More specifically, actually last week, our Life Noggin channel published a video collaboration with SENS, who's also here today, on senescent cells designed specifically for the lay public. The extremely complicated science we will translate into digestible, relatable narrative that everyone can understand. Furthermore, we have now a series that will be released in the next few weeks on all of the different hallmarks of aging, really built in a way where everyone can understand the complex science. But the bottom line is, do you see the value in having content that makes your research and its importance super easy to understand so you can widely distribute it to your family, potential investors, friends, pharma partners, policymakers? How do you articulate the value of your work to make sure that people around you truly know how important it is? So good digital marketing, content strategy, and audience awareness helps us meet people where they are and guide them towards a greater understanding and appreciation for the longevity movement. The next step is activating them. If the pandemic has shown us anything, it's the importance of clear communications between science and the public. How much the public understands which audience you're targeting and the respective narrative being leveraged matters now more than ever. There are massive benefits of having a public that is excited and on board with the idea of longevity research. So what we need to do is make science more human together. Have you guys read this book? Show of hands. Okay, so this is The Emperor of All Maladies. It's a wonderful book about the thorough history of cancer. The woman, Mary Lasker, she played a massive role in revolutionizing not just how cancer was treated, but how the public perceived it. She transformed the national dialogue with various PR strategies and turned cancer from a pariah disease into a global war on the disease that people wanted to be a part of. How did she do this? She understood the importance of storytelling. She understood that the general public had an idea, a bias around the word cancer. Does it sound familiar, right? We have this problem today with longevity. There are two very big, very important things that she did: advocacy and funding. She took the story of an individual cancer patient, a child, Jimmy, and she strategically used media capabilities to amplify new narratives. Once the general public was activated, she helped provide a pathway to transform interest into active engagement. This is what Lifespan.io is slated to do for the longevity field. We work with everyone in the space, and we're supporting collective actions to fight the war on age-related disease and transform the problem into a global priority. For what it's worth, the YouTube partnership that I highlighted earlier with the 8 million views reached more people than the number who tuned into Mary's initial publicly broadcasted media effort decades ago. History has demonstrated that when you have a powerful social movement that engages the mainstream and leverages effective storytelling, it's like pouring gasoline and jet fuel on its rate of acceleration and progress. Before I wrap up, a quick shout out to our board and our scientific advisory board. I imagine you actually recognize some of these people up here. They have gotten us to where we are today, and we have very big plans for the future. I also want to thank all of you who have donated to us in the past. It's helped us keep our lights on and continue providing value, and as you can see, we are at an inflection point. Today, as I mentioned, this inflection point is no joke. Many changes are on the horizon, and we are so excited to leverage our rich history, partners, old and new, and presence in the community. A quick teaser of just a few of the opportunities ahead. We have multifaceted PR strategies, student-run initiatives, documentaries and movies with Hollywood influencers, video games with gamified bio-avatars, high-profile partnerships, collaborative research projects, and novel funding initiatives with emerging tech. All of this would be available for the community to take full advantage of. We are one of the longest-running and leading providers of industry information to the general public. Because we're not a business and we're here to serve the community, we operate as a leading industry association. We're working to develop the longevity biotech industry into a major sector of the global economy. Part of our mission is to help make this field the largest subsector of healthcare, which is currently the largest sector of the US economy. As I mentioned in the beginning, the work that we do supports and amplifies all of the work that you do. In order to up-level this collective mission, absolutely need your support. Please donate, keep donating, tell others. We can assist with international donor-advised funds as well. I know that we're not in the US, and I made a lot of US references, but we operate globally, and my team is everywhere. Please feel free to also reach out. We want to hear about your research, your stories, your challenges, successes, thoughts, even ideas about how else we can continue to accelerate progress together. And we want to make this longevity movement more mainstream and effectively solve aging. With that, I will leave you with this image and an obvious reminder. At the end of the day, our goal is to live longer, healthier lives with the people that we love. I hope that this talk provoked some new ideas and thinking, and I want to thank the Rejuvenation Startup Conference organizers again for having me, and thank you to everyone here for all that you do. I think I have a few minutes for questions.
Would you allow a question?
Sure.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, who wants to question?
Crickets.
Everybody's busy donating money on their phone, so.
Yes.
There's one, yeah. Douglas.
Stephanie, have you ever heard of the tomato effect?
No, please enlighten me.
Well, no, you said it, but it's about what the issue is in the medical community with being stuck in the rut. We can talk about it later. The tomato effect. It was published in The Lancet in 1986.
I'm on it. I'm coming to find you. Anybody else?
Okay, Bill.
There's one over there.
You have to run all over there.
Hello.
Hello, Stephanie.
Hi.
And thanks for the work with SENS. Many creatives in the world and many scientists are kind of introverted. And a lot of this, the non-creative side at least, is kind of extroverted. Do you have a kind of onboarding, sort of easing people into it process for those who are maybe like much more comfortable behind a mass spec than they are behind a camera?
Absolutely, yeah. And I totally understand. And to be frank, you know, most of what I said actually happens behind the computer screen anyways, right? So if you don't even want to use your own face or voice, there's a way to use animation. And it depends on what approach you want to take. But what I would say is that what you have to say is powerful, and it's valuable, and our organization is here to support. We have infrastructure for some things, and we need to build infrastructure for others. What I'd like to be able to do is build out a service model whereby a scientist or an organization or a lab can say, hey, this is what we're researching. Can you put something together for us? And theoretically, we could do that now, but in order to scale, we have a little bit more work to do. But that is available today. Also, regarding conversations, those responses to cognitive biases are available as a package. If you just play around with the website, you'll find everything you need. But also, if you wait a few months, we're redoing the website. So stand by for all of you who've been playing with this old thing for about 10 years. Thank you guys so much for your time.